Hi, welcome back to the Chamber Guy. We are now in part two of our conversation with Mr. Robin Sukhia, the Secretary General and President of the Sweden-India Business Council. Robin, welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Now, Robin, just to hit back into what we were discussing just a while ago, you were telling us about how India is actually a fast-growing economy with, we were talking about the huge untapped potentials in India. We were also talking about the geostrategic challenges faced by both Sweden and India when it comes to bilateral cooperation. Now, currently, several Nordic multinational companies such as Volvo, Ericsson, IKEA, amongst others, are actively harnessing the huge Indian market base, and at the same time they generate more employment opportunities in India and contribute substantively to India's economic growth. Now, India too has increased its investments in Nordic countries and also in Sweden, and I believe in Sweden there are over 70 Indian companies. Am I right?
Yes, sounds about right. Yeah.
Right. Now, could you tell us about the initiatives that have been put in place over the years by the various, both governments as well as SIBC to promote trade and investment from both sides to avoid pitfalls?
Sure. And I think it's sort of a basis when we look at anything when it comes to trade promotion and business investments is the ease of doing business. The easier it is, the less need there is for any of our organizations, unfortunately. But there are other things, thankfully, that we cater to, and not only the regulatory issues. But during the years, what has happened, I think, in Sweden, Sweden is actually quite a large country from that perspective. We have, being the 22nd largest economy in the world, and the third largest area-wise, it means that everything can't be catered from the central government. So it's divided into 20 regions, and all these regions have their own import and export facilities, and those play a very big role on increasing the business potential for companies. Now, the bilateral stage usually happens at the federal level, but in close cooperation then also with the local regions. And you have, for example, in the Stockholm region or in the Gothenburg region are the two largest regions where you have, and then followed by Malmö and Lund region in the south, you have a lot of different companies coming in from all different sectors. And so you will find mostly activities such as things that we're doing, a lot of seminars, there's a lot of information, there's online information. The more access to information and easier access to information people have, the better. And I think Sweden has been pretty good in actually putting a lot of information online and having digital services for both companies and private citizens online. So it's very easy to set up a company in Sweden. As a Swede, you can set up a company in a day, for example. So it's super easy that way. And it may take 2 days for international people with foreign passports to set up. Otherwise, it's quite easy. There are challenges, of course, here as well, which are being catered to, and we're looking at them as well. But I would say that most of the activities that are happening are through these regions. But on the bilateral scale, Sweden and India, of course, we played an important role there, I would say, together with some other local and other organizations as well, where we really try to lift up those issues which companies have and set up the seminars in a way that we can actually talk very openly about the issues that can then pop up and showcase best case scenarios or best cases actually to companies, and so they understand how and where to go about. So I think it's not so much been to specific government programs as it is as a collaborative with local and central and the bilateral organizations that play a bigger role, and that the partnership between those three parties work really well. So we fly around the country and have seminars all over the place and speak about India, for example, all over the place. But for the Indian companies coming here, it's more also a lot about sitting down and talking and connecting them with the right people and the right people in those regions. Because it may be that if they're IT looking at engineering, then of course Gothenburg region is big because we have like Volvo Group and some of the other very large companies there as well. So it's maybe them that they're actually targeting. So it all depends where, and we sit and have that discussion with them. So that's how we play a role in it. And that's what we have done for the last 17 years, actually.
Right. You've actually come a long way. And in fact, I think you've actually answered my next question, where I wanted to ask you what strategies have you formulated to support your members through the phases of setting up as well as successfully running their business? Do you have anything else to add on with regard to the strategies that you have?
I think the strategy is very important because, first of all, we have all kinds of members, right? So there are large companies, small companies. There are companies who have operations in India who don't have operations, just use for sourcing, whatever it can be. And also the Indian companies coming here. Most of our members are actually Swedish companies going to India, but we have about maybe 5% of Indian companies coming here as well. So the strategies have to reflect that, obviously. So what we've done is focus on some large initiatives during the year, and then we focus on smaller roundtables, both online and offline. And the reason for that is that you consider a company trying to set up a manufacturing plant in India, and we gather 5 people around the table with all different angles. They want to different states, they have different sizes, they have different industries, everything. But having them sit together and discuss one issue on how to set up a manufacturing plant, and having an expert in the room who's done it maybe a couple of times, like our chairman who used to be the head of Sandvik in India for 7 years and set up 3 plants, that creates such a huge value that when they walk away from there, it could be 2-3 hours. We don't mind sitting with them for a few hours. And after that, they walk away with not only their maybe 10 questions, but maybe their 50 questions being answered around the table. So they walk away with knowledge they cannot buy from anyone. So getting knowledge through experience becomes a huge effort and a value which I think very few organizations than our type of organizations actually can deliver. So that's very important, I would say.
Great. Now, you have actually spoken quite a bit about some of the events that you used to have, some of the activities that you have laid out for your members. Now, can you tell us or maybe elaborate a little bit more about the activities that you have planned out, post-COVID, post-pandemic? We've been through 2 tough years, and now, things that mattered 2 years ago, everything is out the window, everything has changed. Now, our plans have to change. The way we run our businesses have to change. So our activities also have changed. Now, what do you have planned for your members? The various initiatives you have in place for your members to reach out, not just between Sweden and India, but also to connect to global opportunities.
So the beautiful thing on what's happening now is, of course, that most events are either hybrid or they're online. They can also be pure, as I mentioned, with just the roundtables, then they're not online at all. But something which has actually come positive out of the COVID thing is that people are much more used now to work on hybrid and online events. So we continued our efforts to work with the regular mainstream topics which are out there, like Make in India, sustainability dialogues is something we run. We also will run current affairs like economy, how is it going, and the free trade negotiations, how's that going? So we're going to run a lot of those kind of activities. We also have a big activities coming up on AI, Sweden India AI and Digitalization Day, which will happen in June, for example. And then we also have the Sweden Innovation Day next year. And most of those are online and in person. We try to get people in person if they can, because that's still a huge value. It's much bigger value. Online, something we noticed, and I think many others chambers also probably noticed, that it's very difficult to get new members online. But you get them when you meet them, because this is all about personal relationship and sharing. So it's very important that we actually can move forward in those activities. We did something else, actually, just 10 seconds on that. We started something called Project for Nordic-India Relations, and that's a think tank, because now where we're heading, as you mentioned, India is in a different position than it was 3 years ago, and with the geopolitical issues with Ukraine and China and everything else, there is a lot of understanding that needs to be done on the geopolitical level. So we formed a think tank together with the Swedish Institute for Foreign Affairs and a couple of companies. It's a unique thing that we're also running activities on. And together with that, we also run Strategic Forum India with the same institute to run further information. So it's changed a lot in terms of the offering that we're offering them, I would say, yeah.
Now, technology has evolved. Everything is online now, like what you have just mentioned. Uh, but based on what your members have come back to you about, has it been disruptive to their businesses in any way?
It has I think in some ways. I think what they miss mostly is actually traveling to India. The you can only get that far online, and companies that have R&D, they need to meet. Companies that have that kind of business there, where you need to have the daily interaction, they need to meet. So that was disruptive for them, and plenty of companies in Sweden who there are a few of them who do not allow, for example, having engineers sitting at home, security reasons, whatever it can be. And that also is, of course, an issue. So we had a few of those companies that said that that's a problem for them. So they have to bring all the business back home. So that's disruptive for both our Indian members and our Swedish members. But all in all, I would say that thanks to the video, and Indians are a lot better on using FaceTime and video before COVID than Swedes were. So Swedes have now finally caught up with being used to video chats in a different way than we were before.
Great. Now, we've come to a fun part where I want you to tell us a story. Give us a real world example of a certain member that you have, a certain business that was, over the last 2 years was actually affected by the pandemic. And they came to you, they took up a membership either before the pandemic or when the pandemic just started. A lot of businesses actually gave up their council memberships as well as their chamber memberships during the pandemic. But this particular person would have held on, and how their membership with SIBC was actually a saving grace for them.
So it's a very tricky question, because to be honest, we didn't lose a single member during COVID because of COVID.
Wow. And
we lost, with the members we lost were for normal reasons, that they moved company or something, right? So I'll actually bring up an initiative that we had that catered to our members in a better online community. My colleagues came up with the idea to launch this SIBC Connects. And that is that we took our entire portfolio and put it online. And we worked through the roundtables, through individual meetings, through government, everything we could in order to get the information needed for them to continue their business regularly. So yes, there were a couple of companies that were more inclined to understand or need of our services than others. It could be, I can't name the name of it, but there's a company that needed our regulatory help with the Indian government, and we managed to get them in front of the Lok Sabha to convey that they are a Swedish company and not what the Indian government thought they were another nation's. From another country. So it was a very sensitive thing that popped up, and we were able to help them, even though we didn't have to meet or do anything, but we were able to help them just through the network. And that's something which I think is hugely important for everyone, that networks is everything when you run into trouble or that you need help, or even if you are not in trouble, but you need to successful, it becomes everything.
I agree with you 100%. If they had tried it on their own, don't think they would have been able to pull it off.
No.
Right.
No.
Now, I do understand from my perspective, I do understand how important chamber membership is anywhere in the world. But looking at what you have done for the Business Council in Sweden, the kind of connections you have made, the interconnectivity that you actually have globally, I think it would only make sense for any business who wants to have anything to do with India in Sweden, or any Swedish business that actually wants to go into India, for that matter, they have to take up a membership with you. I think it's really, really important because so many things that you have achieved for the council, it's going to be virtually impossible for anybody else to do. Now, how can an entrepreneur or a business reach out to you to sign up for a membership? I do understand that you have a process, you have a procedure. Is it very comprehensive, or have you made it very easy?
It's super simple. It's super simple. We do everything is online, so people just go online and see that, become a member, and register, and become a member. Our article associations limits, it has to be a Nordic company. You have to have a company in the Nordic region, or we have subscription availability for Indian companies who do not have a company here. But it's very simple process. As you said, now with everything, we have completely digitalized our entire operation from everything we do. And that was something which we did just prior to COVID. So it's actually helped us in that way as well.
Great. Now, Robin, we have actually come to the end of our interview. Now, before we go, I would like to ask you, do you have any final words to share with all the entrepreneurs in Sweden, as well as in India, and also with the global business community that's going to watch this?
Absolutely. I think everyone is looking at investments across the board. And being part of a business council or chamber is probably the cheapest investment you will ever make, with the highest return, if you are engaged. And that is something which is hugely important.
Great. Robin, thank you so much for your time. It has been a pleasure having you on our show. And
thank you so much.
The very best.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. So there you have it, folks. Having emerged stronger than ever from the pandemic, the Sweden-India Business Council, or SIBC for short, has in place a plethora of initiatives to ensure that your business objectives are met and ample opportunities are presented to take your business to the next level. I would strongly encourage you to look them up. SIBC's contact details can be found below. Thank you for watching as usual, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already to watch more videos with interviews with global business leaders. I'm the Chamber Guy, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.